One of the traits of a good coach is if they can teach you something that they don't practice themselves, but will fit into your style. So today, I thought I'd share some of my thoughts about how people teach jabs, or how a lot of coaches teach jabs. When we talk about jabs, I think one of the main things that I find to be incorrect in the way people approach it is that often jabs are taught as if they're one single punch.
I worry about what they're all doing.
So a jab actually encompasses a plethora of punches. I'll preface this by saying, in my opinion, punches or any kind of striking or any kind of martial art should be about function over form. Meaning that if you can make something work, then even though it looks incorrect, and if you can make something work at all levels, at even the highest levels, even though it looks incorrect, you should keep doing that. But if you're a beginner, you should listen to your coach. They know what they're talking about. They probably know a lot better than you do. Considering that, these thoughts are probably more suited for coaches or people who've been practicing a little longer than a beginner. There are 5 points which I think are relevant to consider when we discuss or when we look at the jab. Weight distribution, stance, speed versus power trade-off, the rotation of the fist, and the flaring of the elbow. So there's a weight distribution. On the one end, you have people arguing that you should put your weight into the jab as you move forward, and on the other end, you have people who believe that the majority of your weight should be on the rear leg when you jab. And both are correct, depending on how you set up the rest of your jab. For example, Jack Dempsey had this falling step, put his weight on the lead leg, and then he moved it and stepped forward at the same time to jab. So his weight distribution was more forward, and as he moves his leg, boom, he steps. Boom. You'll also see Ali in his fights moving all the way to his front leg, actually lifting up his rear leg when throwing the jab. So he sort of goes like that. So he goes, whoop.
To the body light left. Sway. Moving in now. Left sways with a heavier punches so far. Williams keeps after and takes another hard left.
The Latin American boxers are also more lead leg heavy when they're moving into their jabs.
Oscar in the blue and red trunks. First round.
And on the other end, you'll see more the European or Eastern European type fighters place most of their weight on the rear leg. When you jab, similarly to a hook,
yeah, all the way out, all the way back. Now if you notice when I'm throwing it, I'm turning me.
European style is more about placing weight, not exclusively on the back leg, but more backwards.
For the punches. For the punches.
And both are correct. Neither incorrect, but it depends on how the rest of your form is set up, or the rest of your stance and how your guard is set up. This leads us into whether your lead foot should rotate or not. Especially if you're coming from a kickboxing background, you see people are more likely to have their lead foot toes forward, whereas pure boxers are more likely to have their lead foot semi-turned.
Rotate, arm goes straight out and straight back.
A guy like Chatchai Sasakul is also in that camp. So as you step in, boxers are more likely to have their lead foot turned, whereas kickboxers and Thai boxers are more likely to have their feet pointing forward or being more square.
Be able to punch straight and return straight.
The argument that a lot of Thai boxers or a lot of Thai coaches and a lot of kickboxers make is that if you're kind of bladed, it's going to be harder to bring up your leg and check, rather than if you're square, it's easier.
Square your body, step, jab, step, jab.
Both are correct. It depends. And it sort of bleeds over into the sideways stance or a bladed stance versus a square stance. The next thing to consider is the speed versus power. If you're falling into your jab, like Jack Dempsey, a guy like John Wayne Parr has a very heavy jab. Falling into your jab is going to be more powerful, but you won't be able to retreat quite as quickly, meaning that you're more susceptible to counter punches. Most of the time it's a trade-off between speed or power, meaning that the quicker you are, it's usually less powerful, and vice versa. Like the more powerful you are, it's going to be a little slower. So take that into consideration when you're working on your punches. Not all jabs have to be heavy, or all jabs have to be quick. Jabs function as a setup for other punches. And so we get to the rotation of the fist when you're jabbing. In my experience, most coaches teach you to jab like this. You see Lennox Lewis jab like that.
And as it comes out, it turns. Bam! You want that jab to come straight like this. Ha! Remember, I throw the best jab out there.
I've seen a lot of people. Some teach the overturning, where you have the two lead knuckles pointing downwards.
Pop out, twist over, and bring it right back to your face. Point A to point B.
And then there's the other end, where you don't turn your jab at all. And all three are correct, if you can make it work. I saw Gabriel Varga, an extremely good fighter, a multiple-time glory champ, world champ, etc. Very good, arguing that if you rotate your fist, your shoulder is more likely to come up and protect your head at the same time. So you block at the same time. So you block at the same time.
I use my shoulder to protect my head when he throws the overhand. I have some protection there instead of leaving my full face open.
On the other hand, I also saw Ignacio Nacho Beristain, a legendary boxing coach and trainer of Chiquita, Juan Manuel Marquez, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. I think he also trained Oscar de la Hoya for a little while. Like, he has a long list of world champions. I saw him arguing that you were more likely to protect yourself if you didn't rotate your fist.
Fíjate que el jab nosotros aquí lo tiramos, Juan Manuel Márquez lo tiraba así. So no. Bueno, aquí ya lo tiramos así.
Both are probably correct. They're better than I am. If you can make it work, it is correct. And then the last thing we're going to have a look at is the flaring of the elbow. Your first day of striking or your first day of boxing, you're going to learn that the elbow stays here and your hand comes up over, and the elbow follows the hand out into the punch. If you're just starting, that's the case, that's what you should be focusing on. If you're not just starting, and you, for example, have a different guard, say you don't have the classic guard here. If you have a Philly shell type of guard, your guard is here. You can see that my rotating to come up is going to take longer than if I lift it up. I see people like former world champion and kickboxing legend, Superfoot Wallace, flaring his elbow a little when he's throwing the punches. And he could make it work.
Get that jab now. Work the jab. Watch this. You're just right here.
Similarly, you'll see Mayweather kind of coming up here rather than this. And the same with Ali. Bum.
Take all of us, ugly. Suck a look at you.
So the elbow is kind of pointing out, a flaring elbow. So the takeaway from all of this, well, in my opinion, is if you're a rookie, listen to your coach. If you are experienced, if you're moving gyms or you've got a new coach, if you can make it work, it's correct. The caveat being, you have to be able to make it work at all levels. One of the hardest things when you're a coach is teaching people something which isn't your style. It's easiest to teach them what you're good at rather than teach them something that you don't practice yourself. That might fit into their style. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. Alright, thanks for watching.